and your life.
Thank you. So we have a call to order and the flag salute. Who wants to lead us in the flag salute?
Not me. I freeze up and forget the
I
word.
will.
Unless everyone does it at the same time.
Okay, was that Joe?
Yes.
Okay, Joe, go ahead.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I get an approval of the agenda, please?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments?
Excuse me, we need a roll call and no public comment.
Oh, sorry. Yes, roll call vote, please. Sorry.
Sure. Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Chimino?
Yes.
Trustee Gillis?
Yes.
Trustee Nelson?
Yes.
Trustee Wing?
yes,
And I'm sorry, Mindy, you said there were no comments?
No public comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, board
I
service.
have a comment. There's 5 versions of the Pledge of Allegiance. So did you know that? We use the current one, so that's good. So, a little history.
Okay, board services, governance workshop presented by Peggy Lynch.
So this evening we have Peggy Lynch from Leadership Associates. It's going to take us through a few protocols and work with us. And this is an orientation and really a conversation about how we work together as a board. And my hopes is that eventually, as we work through this, we will be able to develop our governance handbook, which is something that we can share with all new trustees, that we can annually look at it and revise it based on need. But it's something that could be a working document for us. Peggy, welcome.
well, thank you very much. It's nice to see all of you. Myra was talking about she was on a Zoom. I was on our partnership met all day today from 8:15 this morning till 3 o'clock. So I had about an hour and a half break and I'm back at it. And I was on Zoom all day yesterday. So it's not my favorite part of life right now, but it's okay. So I know for most everybody, we do miss the opportunity to be in person talking through these kinds of things and working through them. So, and Krista, I know you don't look like that phone. I actually have a picture of you, so I know what you look like. So sorry we can't see you. That's unfortunate for you, I know. So, and Mark, I didn't get to say hello when you hooked on, but welcome and nice to see you as well. So I gave Mindy a draft, a copy of an agenda, which is kind of the things we're going to work through. I don't know if she sent it to you via email. I'm not sure how you got it, but if hopefully you have it, but I'll take you through it. I just want to take a minute to talk about what we're going to cover in the 2 hours we have together. So just a little bit about my background. I'm a former superintendent. I was a superintendent for 14 years total. First, I was 7 years in Brea Olinda Unified here in Orange County, and then I was 7 years in San Diego Union High School District down in San Diego County. I live in Orange County. I live in San Clemente, and so I've been with Leadership Associates since 2009. I do a lot of superintendent searches. I also do a lot of governance workshops, superintendent coaching. I do some network work with groups of superintendents in the state. So been around for a while, and so hopefully some of my experience. And at my age, I don't know, I was in college in the 60s also. So hopefully I might have some wisdom left in me at this stage. So, but I hopefully it can be helpful to you. So the agenda starts with a little bit of around the legacy dialogue, which I think you got ahead of time. Is that correct? You have it ahead of time, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then we'll spend a little bit of time on that. I sometimes find when boards have been together for a while, and even when there's one new member or anything, and I think you have 2 new members, it's important to kind of reorient about how we're going to work together and why we're here in the first place. So I like to do this as a chance for people to share a little bit about them, and gives it some insight to each other. We'll talk a little bit about roles and responsibilities. There's a couple graphics. Kirby's been kind enough to say he'll do some screen sharing for me since I'm not as good at that yet. We'll talk a little bit about team, what governance team means. And for those of you who've been involved in the governance work, the team really is 6 of you. It's the board and the superintendent. And so it's really hopefully a team approach to how you do your work. Spend some time on a board behavior audit, which I think we also sent ahead of you, time for you to look at. And then we'll take a little stretch break. I find that after sitting too long, it's not good for our backs. So it's good to move a little bit. We'll take a little bit of a stretch break and talk some more about the protocols and norms and what they're about. And I sent some samples for you to kind of work from. They're not be all and end all. I have worked with boards. I did a workshop earlier in the summer with a board who had about 5 pages of protocols. I find when you have 5 pages of protocols, you can't keep track of them. So it's sort of nice to sometimes sort of make them a little bit more manageable, and why we do those. And then we'll have a little quick closing activity for you to think about. So hopefully it'll be of help and get a chance to talk. So Chris, if you're okay, I'll just go ahead and start with everything, if that's all right.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to go to, I want to get a gallery view so I can see everybody. So what we're going to start with is the legacy. And what I'd like you to do, there were 3 questions, 3 things to do. The reason you wanted to serve on this board or governance team, what's the legacy you'd like to have, kind of say at the end of your time, whenever you finish as a board member, and what are a couple of priorities you have in the rest of the year and headed into next year, okay? So we're going to go around, and if you can each just take a few minutes to talk a little bit about those topics and sort of where you are in your journey as a school board member. Some of you have been on the board a while. I don't know exactly how many years. I think I know, as I said, a couple of you are new. So let's start with Joe. So since I'm looking at you on my right side of my screen, Joe, we'll start with you. If you could just take a few minutes on each of those and sort of talk about that, that'd be great.
One sec. What was the first one? I'm sorry.
The reason you want to serve on this team, this governance team.
I have a couple kids. I have a son and a daughter who are in the school district. And when we were looking to find a place to live, we found Roanoke Park. There's other places that we could have bought a house and moved to. And, this was the place where we wanted to raise our kids. So I really like the area. We're invested in this area. And I want to be a part of the school district just because I want to be involved with what's going on with my kids.
Is there a particular value you think you bring to the board?
I don't really know. I mean, I not good at that because there's so many people I feel like are way better than me, have way more to offer than I do. I come from a construction background.
Okay.
And I don't know. When I first started, I thought, things could be done differently, a little bit more straightforward, but the more that I'm involved, the more I realize that's not how these things work. And I wish I was hoping I could probably, make things a little bit more straightforward, but I don't think I really can have things that way. And I think that's one of the issues. For me, it's if we can't do this, then why can't we do this? And why can't we do it? And that's not how it works. So I'm just learning how to deal with that,
How long have you been on the board?
2 years.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
Thanks. So I thought it was that, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Michelle, you want to go next?
Sure. So the reason I wanted to be on the school board, like Joe, I have a son in 7th grade here in the district. I'd been an active member of the PTA and school site council. So I feel at that time I had done a lot of school specific involvement, and that I wanted to do more school district involvement. And just make our district a more desirable place for our families, teachers, and the other parents in the district. And so that's why I wanted to serve. I think from a perspective like Joe, Joe and Mark, like I'm in it right now. My kid is in the school. And so I know that we've all had children and stuff, but this is what I'm living every single day. So when we talk right now about what distance learning is like, or what actually is happening in the classrooms, it's kind of what I'm living. And then also, I have a lot of relationships through the PTA and the different site councils that that I can rely on, and a lot of voices and input coming in from lots of different directions. My priorities are the things I'd like to accomplish in the near future. I would like to see us get through COVID in a positive and effective way. And also kind of like Joe, maybe bring more efficiencies to the district. But like Joe, I'm learning that the public sector is a lot different than the private sector, and things don't go as quickly as we'd always like. So that's my short-term goal. And then long-term, I'd like our district to be more proactive and less reactive. I feel like a lot of times we're putting out fires that maybe we could have prevented. And I really want our district to be, something that other districts in the county look towards for guidance, instead of us always following behind what other people have done. So maybe do a little bit more out of the box thinking, and a little bit more what works best for Roanoke Park, not what works best for other districts.
Okay. So there are 3 parts we're kind of covering, and you're weaving them all in, which is great. So again, it's why you're on it, what's maybe the legacy, the sort of that long range thing you just mentioned, Michelle, and then sort of the priorities and things that you see to get accomplished. So okay, so let's go to Lev. You're on mute.
You can't read my lips? What's wrong with you?
That's not a skill I have.
Okay. I'm no longer on mute. I've been on the board for 26 years. Let's see. The reason why I ran for the board, the reason that I've stayed on the board for an eternity, is I believe in giving back to the community. So I've done a lot of different things. I've ran political campaigns while I worked at Hewlett Packard. I was a chamber board president, did that for Roanoke Park. I've coached probably 100 baseball teams with my 3 sons. But as I went through this, my whole focus, I let my wife focus on my 3 sons and make sure that they got where they needed to go. My main focus has been on the community and making a better education for all students. I'm a big proponent of public education, not private education, and bringing everybody up. It's easy to live behind those, well, it's not easy, but a number of people live behind those developments that are closed gates and go to private schools and don't care about everybody else. We need to care about everybody else. And that's been my philosophy. And I hope that, when I retire from this, that's my legacy. I have worked for the improvement of all students based on that. I'm a strong proponent of building programs and building opportunities for kids. And nothing is better than taking or seeing the results of programs and the achievements of students based upon that.
Okay.
So that's kind of sums it up.
All right. Myra, what about you?
Are we just answering the first question, or kind of
bringing them all together?
Okay.
Fine.
kind of the reason why I'm here is to work collaboratively with team members to support the success of our students as well as our schools. The values that I bring to the team are equity, teamwork, and humility. What legacy I would like to leave behind is a laser focus on the needs of our students, data-driven decision-making, and reflective thought process to assist us in making decisions in the best interest of our kiddos. And then my priorities are embedding that relevant data to guide decision-making, ongoing and consistent communication that engages all stakeholders so that we give voice to students, to the entire community, not just all, because I think the more voices at the table, the better we are as a community, as a district. And then development of safety nets to support students who are not reaching their fullest potential at this time.
Okay. Mark.
Okay, I have to apologize for this because I just got the material this afternoon.
Okay, well, we got time, so we're fine. Don't worry about it. It's all good. So if you start by each question, you're good.
Yeah, so the reason that I wanted to, or why I got involved was we are resource parents. So we recently got involved in the school system. And there were some disparities that I saw, quite frankly, kids being left behind at the school that my daughter went to compared to the other middle school. So that's kind of what got me involved. Also the chance to represent this district. This was the first time that we had district-based elections. So I grew up in Rohnert Park, same area, same district that I represent. I went to the schools, graduated from Rancho. So I think I have a perspective on going through the system. Let's see, and the values that I hope that I bring are, contextual, context-based decisions, how they affect Rohnert Park, like Michelle was saying, or Dr. Perez was saying, not so much as following how other places are doing it per se, but what would benefit our kids. Honesty, and my background is in business software and accounting, so hopefully some understanding of the fiscal nature of, and it's totally different than in the private sector so far. But I mean, I'll skip ahead to to the legacy I would like to leave. I would like to leave somehow with a larger reserve than what we have. The reserves that we have, man, it's like school districts are always living on a prayer, so to speak, financially for that three-year target. Yeah, one of the other legacies that I would like to leave is more resources and guidance for English learners. I'm not parroting what Dr. Perez said, but I've seen that directly with my daughter and a lot of her friends. And priorities and what I would hope to see some accomplishment. I would like for our district to be more of a beacon of achievement and how to do things the right way to see kids that are getting ahead. And a place that when you talk about the Cotati Park Unified School District, that it attracts people from the area. So.
Okay. So Krissa, how about you? You have those?
I do.
Right.
And Joe, I think one of the things you bring to this district is the fact that you are a parent and you're a very involved parent. So don't say there are people that can do better than you, because I think you do great. That's my 2 cents worth.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
All my three kids went through the school system all the way from elementary through graduating from Rancho. I have two grandchildren. One is over at Hahn, and one is in the EXL program. So I'm very familiar with what's going on with distance learning and how this is affecting all of our kids right now, not just our own personal, but the community at large. I hear from a lot of my daughter's friends of different things, some doing really great, getting A's, and others struggling. So the values that I bring, I think obviously my financial and accounting background, pretty strong. It's what I've done since I was 15 years old. The reason I wanted to serve was transparency, to try to communicate our actions as much as we can to the community, what we're doing, why we're doing. As Joe said, once you get on the board, you find out in pretty short order that you are one of a team, that things don't get done the way we would always like them to be because we have certain rules, regulations, laws we have to follow. I also think that I bring a willingness to collaborate and support our fellow board members. One of the things I really value is equity for all students. I want to see that we have our academic achievement numbers come up. Our English language learners, I feel, have been left behind over the last decade. And I want to see us focus on what is best for all of our students. So what's the legacy? I think that if we all put our students first, and it will show in our work, that would be the legacy I would like to leave behind.
Okay. Any particular priorities or accomplishments coming up that you're thinking about?
Well, we've got to take a look at academic achievement. I think that's the big one. And I think it encompasses a number of things that everybody talked about. I mean, I think every single one of us said something about English language learners and bringing everybody along. I think it's really important. So that would be probably my biggest priority right now.
Okay. So in listening to you, kind of the themes running through, one is clear commitment to the district and community. So that's important. You know, whether it's because of your kids or whether you've lived there for a long time, gone to school there, as Mark has, and the all kids, achievement for all kids, that working on looking at those kids who aren't getting it, whether it's the safety nets that Myra talked about, you know, the growing the resources that you can use for your kids, those kinds of things. That's a pretty common thread, which is important because it means that you may come with different viewpoints, but you're coming out also with some common themes and goals of things you want to do. And so it's always nice to remind ourselves of why we do this, because I know it's not for the money, because there ain't much in it. And it's not because they're gloriously loving to you all the time, because that's probably not the case. And I know during COVID, in particular, as I've talked with superintendent friends and colleagues all over the state, the pressure on school districts and school boards to make decisions that are complicated is tremendous. And I will also say, from the other side of my role in Leadership Associates, we're seeing the number of superintendents retiring growing because they don't want to do this anymore. But so we're doing a lot more searches than we normally do about this time of the year. But so that's kind of just to kind of help you be thinking about what do we have in common? What are we all thinking about? Where are we going? You know, there might be specific goals here and there, but ultimately it's about what's good for all kids and what we want to get accomplished for them. So I'm going to take a couple minutes on the roles and responsibilities. And this is where, Kirby, if you could, there's two graphics. The first one is just blue with board on top, staff on the bottom. That's the first one. So if you can screen share that for me, that would be terrific. So one of the challenges for school boards and is always been, and I've worked with phenomenal boards. I've worked with challenging board members, but I've also worked with phenomenal board members. And in my first district, I had 7 board members, not 5. And so navigating 7 at a time is always challenging. And so one of the things is you look at what the board does, which is the what. And then the next piece, if you go down to that next piece, is for the staff. It's the how. So how are we going to get it done? So the board says we want test scores to improve for our EL students. That's a what. We got to get that done. Staff has to look at how do we get that done? What are the resources we're going to need? What are the things we're going to do? The challenge always is when things start to cross the lines here and it gets confusing for people. Is the board the person, the group that goes and evaluates principals? No. That's not their job. It's the superintendent's job. So just kind of continuing to think about how do we do that? So the board is that you're setting your priorities, you're setting your policies, you're talking about what you want to see accomplished. And then the staff takes that and says, now how are we going to get it done? And in Myra's case, it's her job to look at the staff she has, seeing who can make things happen, that kind of thing. So it's always a challenge to say, this is what we are looking at and how we do it. I don't know how many of you have been through CSBA's governance, Masters in Governance. Maybe, I don't know if anybody has. You has, okay. So it's good to think about it, but it is not always clean. So if you go to the next graphic, Kirby, that's the whole thing. So you're looking at the top there. The board does the vision, mission, goals, strategic initiatives, whether you call that strategic planning, whatever you might call it. It's those big picture things. You're looking at it from the macro view, if you will, thinking about you're representing your community, you're representing their kids. What are those big things? Where do we want to be? What's our vision? What's our mission? What are our big goals or strategic initiatives that we want to see in place? And then, you've got to establish a budget. That's on the right side there, Kirby, that's aligned with your goals. You can get big pictures, but if you don't figure out how you're going to pay for things, it doesn't get done. And sometimes you set big goals and do the budget, and then we don't always revisit whether we've met the goals. Have we accomplished that? So that next part of the board's role on the left side is assessing results. Looking at data. Myra, you talked about data-driven decision-making. Are we making decisions? Are we keeping programs that are still effective or not effective? So part of the board's job is to assess those results, ensure accountability, and of course, one of your big jobs is to evaluate the superintendent. You got to see if she's doing the work you expect her to do in ways that you expect her to do it. So I think, Kirby, if you can go back to the board side on the left side, there's a piece that says assess accountability. Okay, cool, thanks. So we're gonna go around in a circle about this, but I wanted you to see that. So then you go down the right side again, where he has initiate priorities, direction, process. That's staff. They're talking about taking those priorities, those big goals, and saying, how are we gonna get started on this? What's our process to do it? Who's gonna be responsible for what? And then supervising, monitoring, adjusting as it go through. Some things change. COVID sure has shown us, if nothing else, that you have to be very adaptable, because one day you're allowed to be open and the next day you're not. And you have lots of things that you're always dealing with. So then the staff is going to be gathering those results, data, your dashboard, and you're going to be showing all that and sharing those results and sharing all that information with your board, who's going to assess what they do. So it's that kind of that mix of that board's thing that we call, it's a picket fence kind of thing. Sometimes people want to jump over the fence and do each other's jobs. And that, by the way, includes staff wanting to do board's work. So it's understanding that staff doesn't decide on the absolute mission and the goals. They can have input, they have ideas, but it's not their job. They can present things that they're thinking of. Your board superintendent probably sets goals for the year for her and what she wants to accomplish, but they should be based on your goals, your strategic initiatives. using your priorities and your data to get at those things, to accomplish them. So I just kind of want you to see that and there's different ways of showing this. I have one that's like a Venn diagram, and it shows some of the overlapping areas that happen in the board superintendent roles and board staff roles. Myra and I actually talked about whether you're at some point do your cabinet be involved in this. I've done these kinds of workshops with the board and the cabinet because the cabinet plays a pretty big role in getting some of those priorities done. So questions on that, or comments, things you're thinking about as you look at that? Anything? Has you ever seen one before like that? I don't know. No comments? You're all good? If anybody wants to comment, raise your hand or wave at me or something.
Yeah, no, I've been on the board longer. I've seen many variations of this.
Yeah.
So, but all the same good stuff.
Okay. Yeah. And I think it's always, again, to get 2 brand new board members. And so one of the things about team is how do we make this all work when we've got people who are new or, trying to figure out their place in it. I had a board member one time who decided to call the high school, one of my high schools that I was working in, and to tell them whether they needed to mow the lawn. And I loved her. She was wonderful, but I had to remind her that really wasn't her job. So that if she wants me to get them to mow the lawn, call me. That's a minor thing, but she was just trying, she was trying to be very helpful. But the principal's like, oh my gosh, what lawn? And so just kind of making sure we're kind of staying in those roles. So, okay. Next thing, we're going to go to the characteristics of effective teams. If I'm going to put you back on gallery for a minute. Is anybody a sports fan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, youth coach baseball, so I figured you're a sports fan.
Yeah.
Anybody ever been like in Krissa?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody been like on a drama group or a band? Those kinds of things? Okay. So so my husband, sadly, who's passed away, but my husband was a big sports fan. I was raised with a father and 2 brothers and mom. And so we were sports fans, and I love sports. I love watching them. I love watching quality teams. He's got the picture up in the back.
Wait a minute. Time out. You're Southern California. If you're a Dodger fan, I'm leaving right now.
I'm not a Dodger fan. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
Not a Dodger fan. I'm an Angels fan.
Okay, good.
And I did get to go to most of the World Series when they won. So yeah. But
I have a great story about Mike Trout.
I love Mike Trout. Fabulous. But I always think about what it takes to make a team work like that. And I played some sports, but I wasn't as into it as like my husband was and my brothers were. But I also think about watching, but I was involved in drama in high school. And I watched what it took to put a play on a Broadway musical that we used to do every year, and the kind of teamwork it takes and what it takes for people to get those things done. My current thing is I'm a Kansas City Chief fan now, because I like Patrick Mahomes. That's part of the reason. I think he's a heck of a quarterback. But I watch him, and I watch what Andy Reid has done. And I watch what Steve Kerr's done with the Golden State Warriors. And I watch some of those kinds of teams that are that successful. And you think about what it takes to get that done. And the qualities that you bring when you have some common participation, you have a common sense of what you're about. That makes a great team. You have a big picture vision of where you want to be as a district. You guys talked about that. You talked about some of the things you want to see. So I look at this list, and we'll come back to it in a minute. You don't need to screen share it yet, but and think about those. And if you have that in front of you and you can look at it, or if we'll screen share, what I wanted to do is have you think about, are there 2 or 3 for each of you that sort of pop out as kind of significant to you, that they really relate to you, that are important to you in order to make this governance team successful. So just taking a look at the list, and would you like it screen shared, or you just want to look at papers? Are you looking at papers? Preferences? You just have the list.
If you can put it on the screen, that would be great.
Okay, Kirby, if you don't mind.
Characteristics of effective teams, right?
Yeah. So it's a 2-pager. And I think more than anything, I want you to just look at them and just say, for each of you, is there 2 or 3 that think, wow, that's really going to be, that's important to us as a team, me as a team member. These are things that I think are particularly important for us to be successful as a governance team. So take a minute and look at those, and whenever anybody's ready, you can start. Kirby, are you able to show the second page at the same time? Or not? Maybe not. Okay, that's fine.
If you have a photographic memory.
So, Michelle, anything in particular that jumps out at you on that are important to you? Member of a
So
team?
for me, one of them is the team's purpose and goals are clearly understood and accepted by all. We know why we are together and where we're going. True teams have goals and tasks in common, activities they do together. I just think that that's something that's going to be really important to us, especially as we're making decisions going forward. Are our decisions getting us closer and closer to the goal? And are they relevant to what we're going to be doing? So.
Ira, particularly for you, any of those jump out as particularly important? 2 or 3 of them?
For me?
Yeah.
Okay. I had selected the same as Michelle. The other one that's really important to me is that members treat one another with respect and they appreciate each other's opinions and different strengths.
Okay. So some of these, okay, let's go to Lev. How about you?
So when you started, Peggy, on this, I almost said, get rid of that list and let's go back to the discussion that we had, after the board changed, and the board has changed again, which is good. We sat down with Michael Wattenpaugh and kind of came up with our goals. And I think all 5 board members at that time agreed upon those goals. And I think we need to revisit those goals so that all current 5 board members and the superintendent are focused on where we need to go. I hear common threads from Myra and the other board members that are kind of music to my ears. I think we're all saying the same thing. I think we just need to clarify that, get it on paper, and drive that direction. I've been saying that for a number of years. So in doing that, I think we will be a much more effective team, as opposed to, let's say I want to go off and all I care about is sports, or someone all goes off and all they care about is music, or someone that goes off and, we need to, all 5 of us, and Myra, all 6 of us, all 7 of us when I'm on my split personality. No, no, all 6 of us, going in the right direction. So I just, heard Rochelle say the goals. And so that just jumps into my, yeah. So that's kind of how I feel, type thing. If we all can be focused on the same direction, then we won't be directing the superintendent here and there and cabinet and staff, et cetera. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, and I think if you look at the 4th bullet item, it talks about members commit to accomplishing the team's goals. So if you haven't revisited them as a group with the new members, that's a good thing to do. And that's probably another time, Myra, when you have your group together, to do a sort of a little bit of a workshop around that, with maybe with your cabinet, to make sure everybody's clear on what the goals mean. But if you don't know exactly what they are, or they may be fine, but it's good to revisit them as a group. Every time you get a new board member or new member of the team, it's a new team. So it changes the dynamic, changes how you work. So learning to work with that and having people understand where you're headed is going to be really important. Krista,
Well,
what
that's
about
one
you?
of the ones. I'm sorry, did you say me?
Yeah.
Sorry. I agree. Myra and Michelle both said the same thing, but I totally get where Lef is coming from. If we have the 5 goals set and we all agree those are the goals, then, excuse me, my bullet point of that the team's purpose and goals are clearly understood and accepted by all. If we all know why we're together, what we're doing, where we're going, then we all know what those goals are, and the other stuff doesn't creep in all the time, because there's no way we can direct Myra to do 50 different things that we all are looking at. I think we have to prioritize. And the work that we did before was really good, where we were able to have all these ideas. We basically put them on a whiteboard, and then we talked amongst ourselves about what goals were important. You know, we numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and what was doable. You know, and obviously that changed. COVID came in and changed everything. Sure. Myra got hired, and like a week after she signed her contract, we were shut down. So I haven't seen Myra face to face in almost a year, just because of COVID and the situation. So I think that I agree with Lef that if we can come up with a, 4 or 5 goals that are doable, or not, I don't want to add any. I know Myra's in a lot of things are coming at her, and I really, as a board, I know we want our shared goals, and I just don't want it to be, we have a whole bunch of things we want done. We get to say what the priorities are, but Myra and the staff have to figure out how to get there. So I just want to be cognizant that we don't throw everything with the kitchen sink and expect to get it all done in the next 6 months for our first year. So,
Right.
So I got to add one
Sure.
story though. Even though we haven't seen each other in a year, when you show up to the superintendent and you have a hat and a mask on, she doesn't know who you are.
yeah.
Even if there's something that she was wearing with the principal, who was that? Oh, that was one of your board members.
Sorry.
No, that's funny. No, when you said that, I just anyway. No, I mean, I don't even know, hat and mask on, you know who I am. So,
So
Drive
Mark,
by.
all right. Enough humor, but back to serious stuff.
Mark, you have your unmute. Oh, there you are. Good.
I think there's a lot of good ones, maybe because I now have progressive lenses. I'm now, what stands out to me is the middle to the bottom of the page. But I did have circled what Myra wrote. The difficult and uncomfortable issues are worked through openly. Members bring conflict into the open rather than avoid it. They resolve issues without anger or division. I think with COVID right now, I was somewhat impressed with some of the there's a lot of different voices that we hear from public comment quite vociferously about going back to school or not. And these are, I don't know, I think they're difficult issues that we're dealing with. So I was kind of impressed by the board's reactions to them, because I don't know, some of them seemed quite inflammatory. So that's something new to get used to. And then I've also, this caught my eye just because of some stuff that's going on outside of the district, but in business. But members are not afraid to take risks. They willingly experiment with different ways of doing things. And so I think if we're going to, we have to consider different ways of doing things than what's been the status quo. So that's always difficult because experts are always expert in what happened in the past rather than knowing how to do it in the future. So I think that's something that we have to be willing to look at, especially with COVID.
Yeah. Joe, how about you?
I just, I think dealing with the difficult issues is very important, like not trying to put them off and bring them to the front so we can front load on those issues. And sometimes, even if we don't have an answer, don't know what we're doing, just bringing it up and start the conversation. To me, that's really important, especially with all these things that come up. And sometimes like something doesn't seem like a big issue. If we don't at least bring it up, it sometimes it comes into a big issue and we feel kind of blindsided, or that we're blindsiding people with it. And I think that helps our board kind of look like we're being proactive on, even though it's a reactionary thing, we're kind of being proactive on that situation. And then a couple of them, you know, have the same thing about like having each other's back and being united. I think that's it makes us as a board and a district seem stronger. You know, talking about like those letters that we got from, or people that read from public comments, one of the things was saying how we look weak as a board and kind of some things like that. And I don't think that, but I think when we're all like on each other's side, I kind of always think about like growing up with my brother. Like if something came up, if my brother's wrong, he's right, and I got his back, and then I deal with that later on. Like we got each other's back, and then we'll talk about it later on, but not in front of other people. You know, we're not going to argue, and you know, we can disagree and discuss things, but we want to make sure we're like on the same page. You know, I think that's really important as being on a team. And I think like what Lev was saying is staying up on like our goals. You know, if you have a couple things, when anything comes up, we need to make sure that those things that all of us 5 or 6 come up with that are our goals and the direction that we're going, every decision we make is, you know, does it check these boxes off? Are we going in the right direction? Is this decision, is this discussion going in that direction? And just always kind of like, it seems simple, and some of our goals are simple, and it's not very complicated, but I think sometimes you have to keep reminding yourself, like, let's stay on point. Let's stay, this is the focus. This is the direction we're going. Let's make sure this is the direction that this, you know, that we're talking about is going.
Okay, thank you. So I think when you read through these all, there's a certain amount of whatever these activities are, holding each other's backs, the open communication, all those activities, all those things that you listen well, you pay attention, you care about each other. All of those things ultimately build trust in your organization. And if you're trustful of each other, it's a model to the district. I find that most of us, some of us have seen school boards in places where they are rude to each other in meetings. They I know of one district where, you know, 2 women got up and had a fist fight in the board meeting. It's hardly building trust in your community that you know what you're doing. So learning to do that and having the disagreements respectfully, will ultimately build that trust, that you understand where you're all coming from. I like your idea, Joe, that you know, make sure whatever comes at you, does it fit in that box of our goals? Does it make sense for where we're headed? These are our big goals, they're important, but does this really fit that need? It's important to some people, but is it really going to help you reach those goals? So I think working through problems openly, sharing concerns. I had years ago, I had a board member who didn't stay on the board very long, but she was apparently angry at something with me and didn't tell me till June. Well, that hardly helped me get to a problem solving mode, right? So I think, you know, that open communication, when you have an issue and you want to deal with it, don't let it just fester inside to becoming an issue that nobody can resolve by that point. So I think these are good reminders of what we want. You know, you've got different skill sets you're bringing to the board. Lef, you have lots of experience and been on the board for a while. Mark and Michelle, you're brand new really to the board. So, you know, trusting and learning from each other and listening to the kinds of things people deal with are all part of building a really strong governance team. You've got to be able to trust each other, that you're telling each other the truth, that you're getting the information you need. When we get to protocols, talk a little bit about that. How do you get information? How do we want to communicate? How do we want to work together? So, any questions or comments on that? Okay, so let's go to the board behavior audit, which we sent ahead. And if you want to put that up, Kirby, that'd be great. You hopefully had time to do this. I know, Mark, you probably didn't, but I want you to take a few minutes to look at it anyhow for all of you. This is just some areas that are pretty common in prior protocols or how we do business sort of things. And we asked you each to say, what do we do well, really well? We're pretty good, we're pretty average, and we could be more consistent. It's a weak area for us. It's the board behavior audit. I think it's a different.
This was really hard to do because we have 2 new board members.
Right.
Who
Right.
I think we've had, 2 meetings, and we've not gotten to meet face to face and just, talk or anything like that. So this was hard for me.
Right.
I kept wanting to fill it out based on, prior stuff. So it was a little bit difficult for me.
Okay.
It really doesn't pertain to prior stuff. This is something that this exercise would be good to do 6 months from now or a year from now.
So let's.
I kind of have to agree there. I had the same feeling. I said, this isn't really fair to Michelle and Mark at this point because, and we have a thing. We haven't had to, deal with, something real difficult. Like let's say we were going to, just for example, terminate a principal, and some of us were in favor of it and others weren't, so. And then, meeting in closed session and then listening to each other's, situations. And it's kind of, getting to understand the 5 ideas and listening to those other 4 people. And not just, when you close your ears off, then you're not being a good board member. And I'm sure Michelle and Mark will understand that and go forward but so I just think this, like Carissa, this is a little premature to do this.
Okay. Then let's adapt it and do it a little differently. So what I'd like you to do is look at it, and in each of the areas, there's board member relations, board member superintendent relations, board member staff, etc. All the different ones. Just take a minute and in each of the areas, pick 1 or 2 that you'd like to really focus on between now and the end of the year. So in each of the areas, pick 1 or 2 that you think you'd like to focus on.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go back to page 1 of that then, Kirby, if you don't mind. So we'll take it by area and have each of you talk about it, okay? And what I'd like you to do as you think about this then is maybe come back to this in June and see where you are, okay? So right now, just 1 or 2 in each area that you think are important to focus on between now and the end of this particular school year. So Joe, let's start with you. And take the first area, board member relations. You're muted, sorry.
identify and address conflicts that arise, and operate with honesty and integrity.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Krista. What one or two in that area would you want to focus on?
Listening openly and respectfully to all members, and taking time to get to know each other, since we are, Joe and I have only been on here 2 years, and then we have 2 new board members. It takes a while to get to know each other.
Right.
We may have misconceptions of each other. I think it's really important that we recognize we're all here for the same reason. We all ran for the same reason. We wanted to try to make a difference. We wanted to serve the community. And how we all got here, what our backgrounds are going to be different. But I think we have more in common than we have differences.
Okay, good. Mark, how about you?
He's muted.
Are you muted, Mark? Sorry.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I work in tech. Yeah, so take time to get to know each other. And as a new board member, the only person that I've met in person is Dr. Perez. So I think that will help. And then number 3, value diverse opinions among members. That kind of goes along with what Chris has said, that we might not all have the exact same ideas or opinions, but that doesn't mean necessarily that that's a problem.
Okay. Michelle?
So I have take time to get to know each other. I also have only met Myra in person, but I have had the opportunity to talk to Lef on the phone a handful of times. So that's been great to get to learn to know him a little bit better. And then value diverse opinions among members, because the reason there's 5 of us is because they want 5 diverse people. And so I think being able to recognize that and appreciate our diversity would be great for the board.
Okay. Lef, what about you?
The 2 that kind of jump out at me is obviously I want to listen openly and respectfully to all members, and I will learn from those people, from those situations. I can get time to know you, and you've got kids, and you can know that I've got kids and grandkids and stuff like that. I'm really going to get to know you as we work together, as we, go through difficult times, and as we achieve things and celebrate stuff. So it takes time.
Sure.
I'd like it to happen, yesterday. But obviously for the new board members and for Joe and Carissa, you guys have been here 2 years. I can tell you through 26 years, I've worked with a lot of different board members over that time, and you get to know those people through time and through experiences and efforts, and learning to value your differences and strengths, for the benefit of the district. So.
Okay. Mara?
Yes, listen openly and respectfully to all members. It makes us all a better team, that those different personalities. And also I think that for me, being hired and going into shutdown is particularly hard for me, not meeting the children, not meeting the community, not being together in community as with the rest of the government's team. So I think taking that time to get to know each other, would always benefit us. And it's the personal connection, and not always at a board meeting, right? Seeing each other at school events and such.
Okay, let's go to the next one, board member superintendent relations. So pick 1 or 2 in there. Only 4 of them. Michelle, what about you?
Well, the first one was more of a question to me, was provide feedback to the superintendent via the president. Sorry, Maya, I've just been going straight to you. So that to me was more of a question. Is that how we do things? Is that, you know, should I be going to Krissa and then Krissa goes to Myra? So that was more of a.
Yeah, and I want just to explain that some boards do that as a practice. I don't particularly think that's necessary, and it just depends on whether it works for you. If it doesn't, you go directly to the superintendent.
Okay. I mean, if that's what you guys want to do, great, but I haven't been doing that. But for us, I think, especially with a lot of the stuff that's going on right now, we need to, as a board, remember to refrain from individually directing the superintendent's work, because I'm sure we all have things that we would like her to work on, but she needs to be directed by the board, not just by Michelle or Joe or Mark or individual people. And to share information directly with the superintendent. We all have information coming at us from very unique perspectives. And I think the more that we can share with Myra, the better she will be able to be in making her own decisions and directing the cabinet. So those are the two that that I saw.
Okay. Mark, how about you?
I chose the same two. I had the same question as a new board member, if that was the process that we do. So, but the ones that aside from the question, were refrain from individually directing superintendent work. I do believe we should be sharing information with the superintendent, but we should be acting as and directing, I think, as a board, you know, with common goals. So.
Okay. Joe?
I think provide feedback to the superintendent through the president. I just kind of think that's important because I think like in any team or any type of situation, we got a bunch of people. There usually needs to be like one point like of contact that is like information. You know, if we have a job site and there's a bunch of foremen, even though everyone's like the same, you usually need to have one person that the information is going in and out of, just to kind of keep everything together. I think that, to me, that's important. Okay. And yeah, I think sharing information with the superintendent, like in our meetings and stuff, or through the president, I think that's very important, just to kind of like, it's been the last couple of years, it's been kind of weird because, you know, when I got on the board, the superintendent left during the election, and then we had an interim, and that superintendent was just kind of there doing his thing, waiting for us to find a replacement. And then we like found a replacement, and then they backed out the day they were supposed to sign. And then we had another interim superintendent who was there just trying to like keep things going. And then now we have Myra, which I'm very grateful for. And so it seems like the whole time I haven't really been talking with the superintendent. We've been trying to find a superintendent. So I hope that like now I can, you know, not that I was trying not to build a relationship, but it's like, well, I'm trying to find someone to replace you. Like that's where our effort's going. Now I'm looking forward to like someone who's going to be stably there and to work with Myra.
Okay.
So.
Kristen, what about you?
Well, number one, refrain from individually directing the superintendent's work. Providing feedback to the superintendent via the president, whether it's me or Les or Joe or Michelle or whoever the president is. I think it's really important that 5 people aren't sending emails and texting and calling the superintendent, and then the superintendent has to send an email out to everybody. So that's why we decided 2 years ago that we were going to run everything through the president at the time, who was left, let him go to Myra, and then Myra would, excuse me, I have a frog. Myra would either let all the board members know or answer a quick question or whatever it might be. The reason we decided to do that was just for continuity, flow. As Joe said, it got a little bit crazy where 5 board members were emailing the superintendent, and that person was spending a lot of time responding to different board members. And obviously we didn't want any Brown Act violations, so that gets a little crazy. So I think it's really important, like I said, whether it's me, Lef, whoever the president is, that we have a point person. And it also leaves the president of the board not being surprised by something. I think it also helps build the relationships between the board members and trust with the president and the other board members. So that's all.
Okay. Lef, I think you're.
Yeah, it's me. Okay. So obviously, well, number one, but I'm going to give a little history there. It's always been this way. The communication from the whole time I've been on the school board is your president is your point person, but it's crucial that all board members feel comfortable in going through that person to the superintendent. And then it's crucial that all that information that goes there, let's say if Michelle has a question and she goes to Carissa and Carissa goes to the superintendent, that information gets filtered to all 5 board members.
Right.
So if there's an issue type of thing. So that, I mean, so that kind of, if that doesn't happen, I think over the years that drives the board members to act, independently to go to the superintendent. And, it gets back to, as long as we're focused on our goals and, I'm not worried about mowing the lawn, especially when it's AstroTurf and it doesn't grow, that we stay focused. And so I highly recommend those members that haven't completed the master of governance, and I think it's gone online now, type of thing.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that helps you understand your role. But there are personalities of board members, probably like those 2 ladies that got up and fought. I laughed about that. That breaks down your structure.
Scary.
Obviously, because something's not happening there.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a nightmare for superintendent. That's a nightmare for a board. So the better that we can work together as 5 members, the better that we can communicate back and forth, the more effective our superintendent's going to be.
Okay. Did you have any other ones on that one that you want to talk about?
No, that's
Okay.
enough
Let's go to
preaching.
the next one then, next page, Kirby, if you don't mind. So board member stakeholder relations. This is about your relationship with your stakeholders. Let's, if you could each pick just maybe one in this area for this time, because I'm watching our time a little bit and I want to get your protocol. So Mark, you can start on that one. How's that?
Okay. If I have to pick one, then I would say responds to stakeholders in a timely fashion.
Okay. I just had a pen run out of ink here. Let me grab one real quick. Okay.
Iggy, can you clarify when you mean board member stakeholder relations? Are you talking about individual board members or are you talking about all?
There's a board member out in the community with your different stakeholders.
Okay.
Whether it's your community, whether it's parents, you all have, and you represent different areas, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, now, can I ask something about that question or that statement? So responding to stakeholders, now it's different when you're a person with a parent with a child. As a board member, you really don't want to start answering questions to individual parents, teachers, principals. I mean, parents should be going to the principal, and if there's an unresolved issue, the principal then goes to the superintendent, or if the parent's not getting answers from the principal, the parent goes to the superintendent. I think that we have tried really hard in the last couple of years to make sure unless I'm mistaken, that board members are not trying to solve problems for parents. That's not our role. I think we step into the middle of what principals, teachers, and the superintendent's job is. So I'm kind of not understanding responding to stakeholders in a timely manner. I mean, I get texts and private message from parents, my daughter this, my kid that, this teacher that, and I always refer them to the site principal first.
Right, and
It's not.
It's more that it's timely, that you don't let those things sit. Right.
Yes, and then the other thing I do is if I get emails, I forward them directly to Myra.
Mm-hmm.
And she always responds right back that she's placed a call or she's done, she took a step, she took an action. So I just think I just get a little bit concerned when we're talking about responding to stakeholders in a timely fashion.
Yeah. And I think that's important. And when you get into protocols, we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay,
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So is there anything in that area that you want to particularly focus on?
I just think that listening respectfully and opening to stakeholders' concerns is really important, just that we know what our role and responsibility is.
Got it. Perfect. Thanks. Let's see, Michelle, I don't think you've gone yet, right? Have you?
No. So I actually do have response to stakeholders in a timely fashion, but I took it from a different stance that if someone is having a problem, responding back and saying, hey, this is the way to solve it. You need to go to the principal and then this and then that is a response, because we can't solve the problem for them, but we can guide them of where they need to go and the steps they need to do. Because sometimes our parents or community members don't even know where to go or what to do next when they have a challenge. So I just want to make sure that people know that that we will, if someone reaches out to us, we will respond to them and tell them where to go next to get the information they need. And then also just listening respectfully to them and openly to their concerns.
Okay. Lef?
4 stories. We've had board members in the past hand their board card to people in the public, say, if you have a problem, come to me, I'll solve your problem. So that's the thing you don't want to be doing. You want to be listening to them respectfully and openly, and then directing them where, we cannot solve the problem. It needs to go to, the principal, the teacher, the superintendent, wherever that is. So just, again, I think everyone is kind of focused on what we need to do here.
Okay. Joe?
I think advocate equity for those we represent. And to me, the way I hear that is not just like making sure we're being fair with everyone, but also, we have all these stakeholders, but then there's like sometimes the people that need help the most, they don't really have a voice, or, they're some of the communities stakeholders, they're not as, representative. Like I look at my school, there's at the elementary school that my kids go to, there's like a lot of parental involvement, but it's like a certain group of people that are really involved. But then there's there's other groups of people that aren't, they're not as visible, and they are the ones that usually need more help. And that's the more, last couple of years, it's like things like simple things that but you never really think about, or it never really clicks. But recently it's been clicking for me about, homeless, people with home problems, people like nutrition problems. And to me, that's, advocating for those that we represent. I think that's the ones that aren't saying anything. We got to, work on those people.
Yeah, I think, Mark, you haven't gone yet. Am I right?
I started us off with responding
right.
to stakeholders in a timely fashion.
Okay.
And I did mean responding, not solving their problem or giving them an answer.
Mara?
For me, it's advocating equitably for those who we represent, being aware that, again, as Joe said, not everyone has a voice, and making sure that we're cognizant of who doesn't have a voice so that we can represent them equitably and make sure they have what they need.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. Board member staff relations. We're going to try and get through these next three so you can take a stand-up break. Let's start with Joe on this one. Pick one.
I guess recognize that we don't, do staff work. They're all kind of the way I feel about like this whole section is that I don't I'm a community member who's trying to, be a voice of the community and put the district in a direction. I don't work for the school district. If I really want to get involved and, I guess you could say micromanage, then I should work for the school district. That's how I feel about it.
Okay.
I want to rely on Myra with her expertise, and she's going to hire and direct people with their expertise to do this stuff. I don't work in education. I'm just a parent, and and I'm not saying I don't value or whatever, but I don't want to work, I work the job that I want to work, I'm doing what I want to do. And I think there's people that are doing an awesome job, and I should just be, rely on Myra.
Okay. Left, how about you?
Do not overwhelm staff with personal requests and direction.
Mara?
Okay.
Myra?
Refer staff members to the superintendent with their concerns.
Okay.
I want to build those relationships and alliances, and that's always helpful for staff members to be encouraged to come talk to me.
Perfect. Krista?
I'm with Lef. Don't overwhelm staff with personal requests or direction.
Okay. Michelle?
I put 4 and 5 together to make one of them. So treat all staff members with respect and recognize that we are not staff. So we do not do their jobs for them.
Okay.
Let them do their jobs. So we just give direction.
All right. Mark?
I chose 3 and 4, communicate concerns about staff to the superintendent and recognize that we are not to do staff work.
Okay. Governance team operations. Pick one.
Number 3.
Chris has got 3.
That's what Les says, number 5.
Okay. Mark?
4.
Okay. Joe?
I say 5.
Okay. Myra?
5.
Let's see what we missed. I missed Michelle.
Me. 5. But this is the one that I also thought was the most important. So I'd also like to say all of the above.
Okay. Okay.
This is the one that I feel like our team needs the most growth in. Because I scored them all, and this one got the worst score.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. I mean, all 5 of these are important.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Build governance teams. We got to welcome the new board members. We got to help them along. At the same time, let them grow and provide them the information. And the stronger our governance team, the stronger the solution. So.
Yeah. Okay. Effective board meetings. The first one I'm about reading all agenda materials. This will tell you how old I am. So we as superintendents used to get panicked if the board member walked into the board meeting and was just opening their packet for the first time. because you knew they hadn't looked at one page of it. So now you get everything electronically, so it's different. But anyhow, so what would be particularly important to you in this area, one of those? So I'll start with Michelle.
Number 2.
Okay. Mark?
Number 5.
Okay. Krista?
Number 5.
Okay. Left?
Number 5, with a caveat, sometimes some of our lives are busy, and if you don't get the packet until Friday night and you're gone or you're on a business trip or whatever, you might be that board member that walks into the meeting going, I only have 15 minutes to read this type thing. But I mean, again, part of your board responsibility is to make time too for that. So.
Let's see, Joe?
5 and 1. I think that's just like, for me, it's kind of difficult. I'm pretty like all over the place.
Right.
And so like sometimes I'll read through it, but am I really digesting it, or am I reading through it? Am I just hitting the key points, or am I really, I notice a lot of the stuff we're just relying on Myra and like our team, and we're just supporting them. But then some of the stuff, I read through it, and then during the meeting, I'm like, oh shit, that's what that meant? Like, I had no idea. Like, that's what we were talking about. Like, I read it one way and just didn't really grasp the whole concept of why we're talking about something or what something was.
Okay. And Myra?
4.
Okay.
Not that I'm doing that, but when you're at home, there's a tendency that people will text you because you're not in a room. So,
Right.
that temptation of that technology, which I avoid, but it's something that's distracting, another distractor.
Yeah. Exactly.
That we didn't have when we're live in a room.
Yeah. The kids are wandering into the room and talking to you.
Right. The dog barking. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what I'm going to do on that one is I will summarize some of that and get that to Myra as some things you can focus on between now and the end of the year, and you can come back and revisit it. Okay? So let's take about a 5-minute stand break, or bio break, or whatever you want to call it, and put yourself on mute. You can take that down off the screen, and we'll come back at 6:26. So how's that? Okay.
So are you back, Peggy?
I don't think she is.
This wind is getting crazy.
We had they said about 50+ mile-an-hour winds here in San Clemente yesterday. I about 3:30 in the morning or 4 in the morning on Sunday night, well, overnight Sunday, and I have higher patio chairs on my deck. I look out at the ocean, and 2 of them had blown over. So at 4 in the morning, I put on boots and a raincoat and got out on my deck and I had my barbecue cover, I had put a brick on it and put all the chairs down so they weren't going to blow over. It was a mess. It was just a mess.
Yeah, this is really windy.
Oh, you wimps. Go back and deal with it with a hurricane back in the Midwest.
Yeah, I grew up in New Jersey and I went to college in Iowa.
Oh, okay. So you've
Hurricanes and tornadoes. I don't want to do them anymore. That's why I live in California.
Yeah, tornadoes are real.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah.
Very real.
Well, I just took my umbrella out because it was pushing out of the holder, and I didn't want it to come flying into my slider. Now I'm nice and wet and cold.
Is it raining up there?
This sound, oh my gosh, I am right on the creek, my backyard, and one of the fence lines, and it's all trees, and oh my gosh, the sound coming through them, it sounds like a freight train.
Yeah.
Lots of rain. Snow. I think it snowed in Las Vegas today.
Wow.
It did. I have a client who, one of their employees that I talk to several times a day lives there, and he sent me pictures. It also snowed in Yucca Valley in the desert.
Yeah, I heard that.
It was beautiful, though. Another client sent me a picture from there. So I'd like to some snow.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if it's snowing in Auburn right now.
The one camera that's close to Auburn showed snow
I'm talking
on the
about
Caltrans Live.
my front yard and backyard.
Oh,
There's-
you have your cameras. That's right.
Yeah, and there's someone walking on my roof today. So, I mean, what's going on? I actually have a great neighbor that's cleaning my gutters out today.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a nice-
are the bears hibernating up there?
No, they're still playing. They were playing on a neighbor's tree the other day. So,
Yes.
Oh, funny.
yeah. I have a video of 2 baby cubs and the mother coming and taking a bath. And it used to be a koi pond, but the koi are gone. And the mother's taking a bath, and the 2 little cubs are climbing up the trees in the courtyard by the front door. And I'm going, oh, hello. Luckily, they didn't decide to break the door down to see what's inside. So,
Yeah, it was so I put this brick on top of my barbecue cover to keep the cover on, and when I got up in the morning, it had blown off with the brick, and so hanging off the side of the barbecue. I don't know how it took that much. It took a brick off it. That was strong wind. So
That was strong wind. All right.
thing the brick wasn't through your sliding glass door.
exactly. Well, that was what I'm concerned with the chairs. They were going to come back into the door, into the glass, because I have all glass in the front of my I live in a condo, and I'm up on a hill, and I look out at the ocean, which is great, but the glass there's a lot of glass. So luckily they didn't go that direction. They blew the other way. So.
Yeah, well, this thing's getting pretty bad out here. My weather station just clocked that one at, it's not a big deal, but 19 miles an hour, but it's starting. I think it's going to be a rough night.
Yeah. All right, we got everybody back?
So,
Okay. So I want to end kind of with the protocols, and you're not going to finish these tonight in any way, shape, or form. But what I did was I drafted some protocols in different areas that I found have been kind of common areas about boards need to work through and governance teams work through. And I really think it's important to have protocols and norms about, why you do things, how you're going to do things. Board members like different kinds of communications. Some board members want emails right away, only emails. Some people want texts, different kinds of things to do different things. How you're going to work publicly when you're in a board meeting, which of course is all different with all COVID. How you have an environment where you can have a good culture. What are the things that are going to be important to you? So what I did was put these together. And again, I I'm just not somebody who believes you ought to have 40 pages of governance protocols, because we can't keep track of them all. So I tried to put them in areas that would be, I think, some easier ways to look at it. And what I think would be helpful for now, so that you can end by 7, and if you're probably some of you haven't had dinner yet. So, or if you did, it was a really late lunch or something like that, is to have you take a look at those and talk a little bit about how you might think through what's important to you. So if you could take a couple minutes on each of the areas and maybe circle a couple that really resonate with you, that are particularly important to you. Are they in each of the areas, so that you can think through things that you want to focus on, particularly right now, given you're in COVID, given you're not together, but that are going to be important for you, especially as you start to think about coming up to reopening and how that's all going to look. So in each of the areas, taking a minute or two, a couple minutes on each to look at them and say, what are a couple that resonate with you personally as protocols that are very important, would be helpful for the team to be successful. Okay? And then we'll come back and do that.
Peggy, I think this is a really good list.
Well, thanks. Yeah, they seem to be kind of, again, I literally worked with a board this summer that had, I don't know, it was just, they didn't even know what they were. So, because they had too many of them. So, and they were having a new board member too, and a new superintendent. And as a result, there wasn't really buy-in in the protocols.
Mm-hmm.
They hadn't really talked about them. They hadn't really looked at them in a while, and there wasn't any ownership. Okay, let's start with, I'll just go down the line. Joe, you're on the bottom of my screen right now, so I'm going to go with you first. In communications, is there something in particular that struck you that you want to think about, or in that area? You're muted, sorry.
4 and 5.
Okay.
I just, I feel like if I'm, reaching out to the superintendent, it's not something I normally do. It's probably for a very good reason, And the same thing, like I always have my phone on just in case something happens. I want to know if I don't know what I could help her, micro with, but I'm always available. And then just, the whole thing about like micromanaging, like the whole reason why we picked Myra is because we felt like she's the direction that we want to go with our school district. And and that's, what I learned in the hiring process is like, you can have a goal, you have a direction, and then you pick the superintendent for that direction, not because she's awesome or she's super nice, but that's the direction you want to go, and you let her do her job.
Okay. All right, Lef?
1 and 5.
Okay. Krista?
1 and 2.
Okay. You want to comment on any of those?
Well, Myra's been giving us weekly updates and then some, which is really very refreshing to be kept in the loop on everything. Number 1 is really important to me. I don't want any surprises. Myra doesn't want any surprises. So I think it's really important that we make sure we have open communication.
Okay. Lef, did you want to comment on any of the ones you picked at all?
No, they're self-explanatory.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Michelle?
I did 1, 2, and 6. 2, Myra's already doing, and just like Krista said, I really appreciate the weekly, if not sometimes multiple times a week updates. 6 is also something I'm doing. I meet with Myra before each of the board meetings after we get the agenda, just so I can walk into the meeting more prepared. I asked Myra that I would never surprise her at a board meeting, that if I was going to say something or say no to something, or I was against or strongly for something, I'd let her know ahead of time. I don't know how to let the rest of you know that, though, without violating the Brown Act. So I don't know how to not surprise the governance team unless Myra wants to let you all know, hey, Michelle, I don't plan on being like, oh my gosh, no, I'm against something Myra wants to do. But if someone in the future could let me know how I let the rest of the governance team know that, that'd be great, because I don't want to break any rules.
You can. I mean, let's say you feel strongly about something and you want to discuss it. I mean, all the board members, let's say it's an opposing view.
Right.
All the board members just need to respectfully listen to you and listen to your views, and then, vote accordingly.
Yeah. I just don't know if that would surprise. It's the surprises one in there. I won't surprise Myra, but I may surprise you guys in a meeting. I don't know.
I mean,
I'm not planning on it, but.
Right.
But I think he's right. You can have those discussions, though, that allow, so it's not a surprise some other time, and all of a sudden typically items are going to be something you're going to, maybe big items especially, you're going to done over a couple of board meetings, so it won't be a surprise when it comes down to if you're going to vote no.
I won't do a 180 at the last minute. How's that, guys? I promise you that one.
Okay. Mark?
So perhaps I misunderstood this. These are what are important to me, not necessarily what I think we're having a problem with, right?
No. What's important to you?
Okay. Number 1 and number 5.
Okay. Any particular thing you want to say on those, or are you okay with just saying that?
Self-explanatory.
Okay.
I like that, Lef.
Myra?
2, because I think that it's my way of communicating. So hopefully it seems to be working. And 4, want to be available to trustees should they have a question or anything about an item. I want to be available to them to answer any questions they may have.
Okay. Let's go to the next one, maintaining confidentiality. We'll start backwards. We'll start with Krista. There you go.
Number 1.
All right. Joe?
1 and 4.
Okay. Lef?
I'm guilty. Number 3, I advocated for Myra. Sorry, not outside the board, but within the board. No, I understand. You probably mean, obviously, if you're going to hire a principal.
Did you know Myra before left?
Yeah.
You guys like Facebook friends or what's
Well,
going
no,
on?
she worked in the same building that I went to high school in. Remember? Yep.
Oh my God.
So that's the only reason.
Right.
That's it.
Linda.
Yeah. No, I'm just joking about that. Obviously, yeah, probably number 1.
Okay. Mark?
Number 1 and 4, just because of the situation that happened on our very first meeting. So, walking into negotiations. So,
Okay. Michelle?
1 and 4. They're pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. Okay, Myra?
2 and 4.
Okay. It looks like 1 and 4 are pretty important ones, huh? Right? Did I miss anybody? I think I got everybody.
I mean, and just, I got to give you a little history type thing. Number 4, we've had board members that have been, a pipeline to the union with information on negotiations and stuff, which is just, it undermines the board's activity and the district's activity. They thought they were doing something to help that, but you need to be totally, separate of that, even if you're a friend of a teacher or something like that. So.
Right.
So.
Next one is around board members' role in the public. It's a different, obviously you're not visiting schools very much right now, so that probably isn't going to happen too much, but anything in there particularly jump out at you as far as, are they workable?
Well, I have to say that number 1's been an issue in the past, and so I hope it won't be an issue going forward. We don't want anybody just showing up anywhere unannounced without the superintendent knowing about it. I think all of 1 through 5 are very important for all of us.
Okay.
Yeah, I did that actually. I went there for a job thing, and I walked on a we'd done a bunch of work there, and so someone who said, "Hey Joe, they're training me how to do something, like how to take notes on the work they want us to do," and I just walked on the school, didn't even think about it, and then all of a sudden I'm getting blown up, like everyone knows that I'm on campus, and it becomes this big huge thing, and it's like it's kind of weird. Like you got to really think about when you go there. Sometimes when I'm gonna go pick up my kids or pick up the packets, my wife's like, "Can you pick up the packet?" Like, should I let someone know that I'm coming to pick up a packet? I don't want people to think I'm, just hanging out at the school.
It's a challenge for board members who are parents, because you are the parent there, but they see you as a board member, and you always have that hat on, whether you intended that way or not. That's how it's often interpreted. So it is a challenge for people, I think, to really know how to deal with that as a board member. So, yeah.
And
if you're okay, and if all 5 of them are fine, you can keep them that way. And again, these are samples, and they're an opportunity for you to have conversations about them. I think, Myra, ultimately, this is the kind of that lead to getting into a governance handbook of, are these things we want to live by? Some of them are more important to you at a given time, but are all of them workable? Do they make sense to you? How do you handle those things? The handling concerns, and this goes to that one in the audit earlier about, so if somebody comes to me in the grocery store and says, X happened, what do I do now? How you handle that. You don't solve the problem, but you've got to respond. You can't just ignore all those kinds of things. So I think Krista and Myra, maybe you want to talk about whether you want to take these as next steps and spend some time on them another way. We'll go through each of them real quickly, but if they're become things that you feel like you want to live with for a while, you can do that too. So Myra, I'll take a little direction from you on whether you want to just go kind of hear each of the areas now separately, or you want to spend some more time with this later.
I'm wondering if we can hear kind of quickly the other areas,
Okay.
kind of what one or two are. And then I think I could take it from there and work with the board president to kind of shape this list. And then we could bring it back to the board for feedback.
Sounds good. So we're on still the one about board members' role in public. So I know, Chris, I think you said you thought they were all good. So other people want to weigh in on that one?
I think all of them in all the sections are good, just so you know. So by saying that, like, I only like 1 and 3,
Right.
I like 2, 4, and 5 too, but you're only letting me pick 1 or 2. So direction for Myra and Krissa, when you guys are going through them, don't think that I don't want the other ones. I like them all, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And I think right now 3 is really relevant in board member role in public, just because there have been some Press Democrat articles out recently, and there has been stuff going on in the paper. So we just need to remember, if someone calls us, they need to call Myra.
Let Myra handle that one.
Well, I'm friends with the press. They have my cell. They contact me regularly.
Yeah. Anybody
Well,
else?
all it takes is one surprise, and that's the end of that.
Anybody else have any particular? If you're okay with all 5 of those, we can just leave those for now.
So Peggy, they're good, but just a reminder, having a little more experience than everyone else, you got to remember what hat you're wearing. So just a little history. We had one board member that got in trouble with drinking, and the paper ran rampant with that. And so the first thing, if you do anything wrong, if you get a DUI or you're outspoken and thing, they're gonna tag that school board member tag on you type thing. So there's a disadvantage of being a school board member, that you might be off with your sports group type of thing, coaching, and maybe you're a real jerk when you're out there coaching. So people then, look at that and go, that individual is also a school board member, So you just have to, know what you kind of have to behave at all times. I do very little. I don't do Facebook because it can be, misinterpreted and stuff like that. I try not to do emails and stuff. So it's kind of remembering we represent the school district first, unfortunately. So whenever you're out there doing things, you want to have your best foot forward at all times, and be positive at all times, and understand how people are perceiving you, because that's a direct effect on the school board.
Yeah. You really don't take the hat off.
Nope, it's
Really
there.
don't.
They sew it on when it's elected.
Pretty
And
much.
then even after you're gone, it's like, well, he was on, or she was on, so,
Pretty much. Yeah.
One of the things I've seen now, I have Facebook, but I have 14 friends, so I know that's very sad, but they're really truly friends and family. But I have seen people that don't understand that their settings aren't private, and so friends of friends of friends can see stuff, and on it goes. And over the last couple of years, I've seen pictures of people who probably didn't know that their pictures were out there, whether they be board members, staff, and I'm people want to drink, whatever, but realize that those pictures are floating all over forever.
Yeah. They're really permanent. It's something we deal with candidates for positions all the time. And some boards, some districts that I've worked with have in fact started to think about developing protocols around social media. Because somebody has 300 friends that they communicate with, and you say something as a friend, and they think, oh, the school board's going to do that, and it's not the case, but it's still an area of concern for people.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to skip to handling concerns. Any particular ones in there that are particularly significant? They're all pretty good, I think, and you just have to.
I think all of us said all of these exact same things in one form or another.
So far, yeah. Anybody else want to comment on any of those?
Well, you kind of skipped me on the previous one.
I'm
So
sorry, I did. I'm sorry, Mark, go for it.
my only feedback, they're all good, is I think we need to add that unless they're attending as a parent or spectator to number 1 if we're going to keep that, because if I got to go pick something up. for my
Oh, I
kid at
see what you're
school,
saying.
I'm not going there. It'll be hard enough to eke out time and break to go pick something up rather than,
Right.
announce
Well,
my
and I think
arrival or
in
something.
schools typically means when you're going to go visit
As a-
classrooms,
yeah.
just drop by kinds of things, not necessarily when you're attending events that are part of your family, probably.
Yeah. So for the handling concerns, I think, I guess if I only had to pick one, I guess number 3. They're all important.
Anybody else want to comment on the handling concerns? Number 1 in particular, Chris, it goes to stuff you talked about earlier about, really handling it, sending it back to where the starts.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us said the same thing.
Yeah.
Mark, Michelle, Lev, everybody said the same thing. You handle the problem by saying, I'm not the one that can solve this for you. This is how you need to go about addressing your concern.
You didn't like hand my business card to him and say, call me, I'll solve your problem?
No, we don't do that.
Oh, darn.
I know.
I was going to try to sell him a pool at the same time.
I really think that would be a bad idea.
And he is not wrong. There are board members who've done that pretty regularly. So.
Oh, board members hand out their cards at football games. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Not a good idea.
Okay. How about on prior to board meetings? Anything in particular that you want to focus on, talk about?
I had a question about 4.
Okay.
So it says board members will make an effort to notify the superintendent in advance of their intent to remove an item. But if we're going through Krissa, because she's the president, I guess I just need some clarification of how, like what we go to Myra for versus what we would tell the president that we are going to take something off, and then she would tell the superintendent. I don't know.
So in my case, what I would say to you is that both should be informed. Myra needs to know so that the staff is aware that there's going to be an item pulled, and she'll want to understand if there's a particular reason. So there might need more information, that kind of thing. But you could do both. In my opinion, you would do both. But
what's occurred, or since my long stint here since July 1, is that I'll receive an email from a trustee that has a question, and they will CC the board president.
Okay.
So that way, we know what the questions are. I can respond in an email, and then I also know what to prepare. Because maybe that's a question that might come up in a meeting. So I'm able to prepare the staff member or look for the information so we can provide the trustees with the appropriate information.
And so you could notify the superintendent and president in advance. And that would go again to the no surprises, right? You don't want to be surprised when consent items typically should not be a challenge, but they can be. Somebody might find something that they don't understand, but you want to be able to help that. But staff needs to be prepared to answer that too.
Well, I know in the past I pulled an item here or there, I think twice, maybe twice. And it was for that purpose of lack of understanding or needing more information. Yeah. So and that was at the beginning. So now I can ask, now that I'm working with Myra on preparing the agenda, it's not so much an issue, but if Michelle or Mark or Leff or Joe had a concern about something, definitely, email Myra and CC me just so I know. Right. And I would say 9 times out of 10, Myra's going to be able to answer your question or concern where you don't need to have it pulled. But in the event that it does need to get pulled, it would be good to know before it happened in open session.
And just a side note, let's say you want to vote against something and you don't agree upon that. You have to pull that item, because when we vote on consent items, you're voting on the whole palette. Mm-hmm. So, what you can do at the beginning of of the agenda, when we're approving the agenda, you can ask and have that item pulled at that time. But
Right.
what I'm saying is no surprises type of thing.
Right.
And you know, I have to admit, I've been guilty over the years where I felt that I wasn't getting enough information or on these items, and it felt like some of these items, the consent item are ways to get things approved that, you know, like a superintendent raise or something like that, that's thrown in consent to be hidden in July when nobody's around. So that kind of stuff, you know, is just being honest and up and above board, you know, not trying to bury things in the consent agenda so the public or other people don't see them. So
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm guilty of when I don't get enough information, and I would, you know, told other board members, if you don't get out enough information or enough explanation, you know, demand that through the president and the superintendent. You're entitled to that. So the last thing we want to do is, you know, keep you in the dark like mushrooms. So
What are your normal business board meeting nights?
Tuesdays,
So the agenda goes out probably the Thursday before?
right? Usually Friday.
Friday.
And like I said, it depends on your weekend.
Right, exactly.
And then for me, when I was employed with corporations and stuff, if I'm in the middle of budgeting thing, I could be working all weekend and all of Monday and Tuesday before going to a board meeting. So, but that, again, that's part of your board responsibility to carve out some of that time.
Right.
I'm guilty of maybe my life being too busy at times and you know, not carving enough time for that type of thing. So
May I also add something? The one thing that the questions do for staff and for the superintendent is we know we need to provide more clarity. So for me, when I have a board meeting where people understand all the items, I've done a good job of preparing the board through the weekly updates and what we write on the board agenda item. So, you know, I appreciate the questions because it helps me provide more clarity.
Well,
That's a good point.
We may understand it, but the public doesn't. So sometimes I know I've told Myra, I get what this means, but I know there's a lot of confusion out there. So we may want to add more, or ask a question just so that, you know, we know what's going on, but all of our stakeholders know what's going on too.
Yeah, that's excellent feedback, Michelle. I mean, that allows staff and Myra either to expand on agenda items in the future, so we don't feel like we have to pull an item and discuss that. But you know, that's just part of being transparent. So providing that information is crucial.
Right, exactly. Mark or Joe, any comments from you on this area about board meetings?
Is there any way to get the packet on Thursday night? I didn't even know that was possible. I didn't even know that was something we were talking about.
If staff works 48 hours straight before that, yes. Yeah.
Myra, are we going to ever go to the change? I know we were talking about having the packet be presented in a different format.
Yes, we are currently, staff is working on participating in training meetings. We're, just for a little bit background information, we have an older version of Agenda Online. So it's a little bit tougher to add items. And for example, if I have a presentation, it may not be uploaded with the agenda, and we don't have a way to upload it because we don't have a more of a web-based program. So we're working on that. Staff is training. So I'm going to be following up with staff because we're moving in that direction, and I do want to provide the background to the board. But what it does is it has live links to everything, so it's a little bit easier to manage the board agenda. And I think the uploading will get easier. So Mr. Nelson, I hope you'll give me some time, but it is pretty labor intensive to put the agenda together and put all the documents together. And staff works really hard to get it out on Friday. So I don't know if we can get it out on, I have to be honest that it's a little, you know, we can't really, I don't think we can get it out earlier. We will do our best. Maybe with the new system, it'll be a little bit easier. We can get out a little bit earlier.
So Myra, with the new system, will it be a living document? So as you're building it, board members could look at that, you know, as it's being built?
Well, it's what we would have to go. It would have to go live. The link would go live. So whenever it went live. So what ends up happening is each department builds their items, and then they release it. It goes to the executive assistant. So Mindy would receive those items, accept them, and then these would be all live links. And so for example, if I wanted to add an item on, on Monday morning before the board meeting, I could give it to Mindy and we could add it as a link. So it's easier to add those items that, we're still working on because I may not get my items done by Friday by the time we upload it, or 4 or 6 p.m. depending on the time.
Okay. Anything else, Joe, or anybody wants to add on the prior to board meeting section? Okay, how about under board meetings?
If we do number 1, the individuals will be recognized by the board president prior to commenting. But I'm not opposed to it.
At our 2 whole meetings, I think we've done it. I know I forgot Mark last meeting, which I completely apologize for.
Oh, does that mean do you mean at the very end, like board member comments?
What this
I think so. I mean,
what this actually means is that if you're going to comment on an agenda item, that you don't just start talking. The board president would acknowledge you. It's a little more complicated with Zoom. Because
I think what we've done, the board president always asks for comments.
Right.
And so at a live meeting, we ask for comments and people talk. So you usually wait till the board president says, are there any comments on this? Right. And then allows anyone to talk on it.
Right.
For Zoom, it's kind of like, unless Carissa, the board president, wants to go through, Joe, do you have a question? Left, do you have a question? Michelle, do you have a question? Mark, do you have a question?
Right.
And then, oh, do I have a question? Same thing. So I don't know how new board members feel about that. I'll shut up and let them talk.
Well, I think it's the idea that if you're sitting at the dais in a board meeting, obviously in the board room, then you can see somebody wants to make a comment and you acknowledge them. It's just to present. Originally the idea was just to create some order in the meeting, and the people don't just talk over each other. It's that you get acknowledged by the board president to run the meeting, if you will, and to acknowledge each person who wants to speak.
Yeah, and I think we do say, does anybody have any comment? And, Michelle might say, I have a question, any other questions? And someone else might say anything. So right. I think we try to let everybody speak to whatever issue they would like to.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Other items on there you want to comment on?
I think number 3 is important. I know it's, again, audience members are, we get comments. Sometimes it's hard not to respond to the comments. And then we're not in open meetings, so we don't really have people at the podium. And we have from time to time asked questions if a staff member is giving a presentation, whether it's facilities or student services, and we've needed clarification. Board members have had the opportunity to ask questions during a presentation from someone that's standing at the podium. And occasionally we've had to bring somebody back up, a staff member. We might be talking to someone and they need to bring up the facilities person to answer a further question. So I think we already kind of do that, at least when we were in live session, in face-to-face, I should say.
Other
and
areas.
then again, sorry, the only other one I have is number 6, where we don't want to bring something to the public meeting that's a surprise to the rest of the team.
Right. Other ones there that jump out at anybody in particular want to comment on?
Number 6, like somebody announcing their retirement at the last board meeting. No, that was a surprise.
Well, there you go.
That was also in closed session, I believe.
Oh, okay, all right.
I was like,
you're in big trouble now, Mr.
I'm in
Brown.
big trouble, right? But that's not confidential information.
Well, it kind of is.
It was until 2 minutes ago left.
I think that person was like in confidence telling us a good lead time instead of just giving us 2 weeks out of respect.
We probably hopefully already posted the job position.
Well, since we are in open session, we probably should stop discussing this altogether right now.
I don't know what it's about, but probably.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Oh, my humor got me in trouble. Again.
I'm going to be laughing about that one on and off for the evening. Oh dear. Oh dear.
I think
oh dear.
number 7, the study sessions throughout the year. I think like when we're in a meeting, it's we try to be lighthearted about it, but it's like pretty much like business, like dealing with what's coming up. And I've kind of like brought up like having when I talked to Myra like on one-on-one, it was kind of like it'd be nice to have like some town hall type where it's a little bit more relaxed. We can have discussion. We can really like talk about things in a more comfortable way. And I think the study sessions also is a good way for us to like not only learn and kind of just remember what we're trying to do, but it's a good way for us to bond with each other because I'm not hanging out with any of you guys and I don't know you. It's a good time to, the only person actually I've went on one mountain bike ride with Michelle's husband once.
Hey, that was in closed session too, Joe. You weren't supposed to tell people that.
Well, it was like very random,
It took both of you half the bike ride before you realized who the other one was.
Yeah, I was just like, we're on a bike ride and it's like, oh, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm trying to breathe here. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. I think the study sessions in person are great when you can like do what Michelle did, when you can like get to know each other and get to know people's sense of humor. And I think that's really important. I'm hoping that we can get back to in-person anything before the next millennium. So
yeah,
I think it would be really helpful. I'd love to have not just a one-on-one, but be able to see Michelle and see Mark and listen to what they have to say face to face. It's just so different. It doesn't matter if you're on a screen, on a phone, whatever. It's just not quite the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting for us when doing searches, and just so you can think about this, trying to hire your superintendent, your CEO, and not meet them face to face.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would do it.
Tough.
I don't know how you would do it.
Yeah. I've done
so many cues, the body language, the mannerisms, do they think, is it funny? Did I offend anyone? You can't see any of that. And we also have a delay on Zoom, right? There's like that. So I'm watching you guys on video live, but there's like this delay. So it's really weird. Like I see you laughing like 20 seconds after somebody said something.
Yeah, there is.
So it's really hard.
That's just courtesy.
And then also too, it's weird because like people, we're just like programmed for eye contact and those visual cues. And no matter how hard you try, you're not making eye contact with someone because you're either trying to make eye contact with them and look at at their picture, or you're looking at the camera to show eye contact, but you're never 100% making eye contact. And people get a lot of information off eye contact. So that's like, I think it's not that you're not in person, but you're not getting that 100% eye contact. Right. That's how I feel. Yeah. So you don't get a connection. There's no real good connection there.
So we're a little over our time. I'm going to, Michelle or Myra, you're going to follow up and spend some time on that. I'm going to give you some feedback from the notes I've taken from tonight, and we can chat some more about that. I think the last thing I was going to have you do, and I'll force you to do it real fast, in one word, how would you like your community to describe your governance team at the end of this year? One word, so it's got to be.
Can it be hyphenated? Go with hyphenated.
Okay.
No, that's not my word though. High functioning is my word.
Collaborative.
Collaborative, okay. High functioning, collaborative,
Dedicated.
okay.
Inclusive.
Okay. Mark, I don't think we got you.
Those are some good words. Let's add respectful.
Okay.
I'm going to change mine from dedicated to caring.
Okay. Myra, I don't think we got you. Am I
I
missing?
know, I'm like, focused.
Okay.
You could say laser focused if you want, since we're doing hyphens.
I did write that in my my legacy dialogue. Laser focused, and you know what I'll be focused on, right? I've already said that repeatedly. Children.
I know.
students.
I heard it, man. I was like, ooh, we're getting laser focused. And
That's
if
my
you're not on
goal.
my program, I'm using my laser to cut you out of my life.
Okay. Well, it's been very nice to meet you. You can take that down, Kirby, if you want. Thank you for your help. Thanks for helping with everything. Appreciate it. I will follow up with Myra, and I appreciate all of you. It's been nice to meet you, and I know this is challenging times. Chris, I'm sure someday I'll see you in person, or at least on a space screen there instead of your phone. But appreciate your time and your work, and really also your dedication to your district, because that's so important. And we need good people running places, and in very challenging times for sure. So I hope you're all well. You guys need to do what you need to do to adjourn. How's that?
Thank you, Peggy.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Sorry for the weird face there. The windows are rattling in the house all of a sudden. I was like, whoo.
Yeah, it's getting pretty windy out there. Does anybody else have anything they would like to add before we adjourn?
I want to tell Peggy my Mike Trout story.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, if you have time.
I love Mike Trout. It's
Okay.
good.
So I am a ball dude for the San Francisco Giants. I don't know if you know what that is. It's the guy that's a ball dude.
Oh, okay.
So I sit on the field during the games,
Right.
and then catch the foul balls and hand them to the thing.
Yeah.
One of the cardinal rules is we're not allowed to talk to any players.
Oh, okay.
You know, and any of that kind of stuff, unless the player comes up and initiates contact to you.
Yeah.
So seldom, if ever, do players do that. So, but I was at a game with the Angels, and before the game started, Mike Trout came up, and we had a conversation for about 10 minutes, and it was just so genuine to see here as a superstar who was asking me questions about baseball and what I liked about baseball and what I've done. And it was really, you know, it kind of restores your faith in some of these athletes where, you know, other ones won't give you the time of day or focus type of thing. So
he's got a great reputation down
oh
here.
yeah, I mean, and so that restores my faith in athletes and stuff like that. So
well, I have two former students who were professional baseball players: Mark Grace, who played for the Chicago Cubs and the Cardinals, and Sean Green, who played for Toronto and the Dodgers. So I have a long history with boys that were great athletes and good people besides. So.
And I coached Brandon Morrow too.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a type of thing. And then I used to be Bill Lee, the spaceman's catcher.
Oh.
So I don't know if he was a USC boy.
Yeah.
Went on to play with the Boston Red Sox. But anyway, so that's enough of my.
Yeah, Mike's a good man.
Yeah.
So thank you all. You'll adjourn.
One question really quick. Yeah. What are our next steps? Like, what are the action items that come out of this?
So my next
2-hour fun meeting.
So my next step will be to follow up with Myra about just what I took notes on. Myra and Krista will work some more on the protocols and bring some stuff back to you, but she and I also go through that. And I think going through them, if there's any feedback on those that you think, oh, I should have added that, you know, contact Myra directly and let her know so she can work from those. But those would be the main ones right now, I think, for you to think about. And then she and I can talk further as well. So, okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, if not, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Night.
Good night.